When I was scrolling through the endless sea of 65-inch TVs last month, I kept circling back to the same story. I'd bought a cheap LED set for a great price, only to discover that the black levels were more gray than black. The motion looked like it was jittering during sports, and the smart platform kept crashing when I tried to stream a movie. That kind of buyer regret is why I always hesitate before splurging on a big screen display, especially when you're looking at a price that feels like a gamble. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So the question I kept asking myself was, does the Samsung QN65S90F 65-inch OLED 4K really give you a smarter purchase? Or is it just another pricey screen that ends up collecting dust? First off, this isn't a generic new TV review where I read the specs and start rattling off numbers. I dug into the community forums, watched a handful of in-home tests, and talked to a few people who already have a Samsung OLED in their living rooms. The consensus was surprisingly nuanced. People who value deep, inky blacks and fast, game-ready motion are thrilled, but those who just want a decent picture for occasional Netflix binges are more cautious about the price tag. That's the kind of real-world perspective that matters when you're weighing a purchase like this. Let's start with who this TV is built for. If you're a movie enthusiast who spends weekends on a home theater system, or a competitive gamer who wants a 144Hz refresh rate without any ghosting, the QN65S90F checks a lot of boxes. The OLED panel delivers the kind of contrast that you only see on high-end cinema screens. In a dark room, the blacks truly go black, which means HDR scenes pop with vibrant color without the halo effect you sometimes see on LCD panels. Motion Xcelerator 144Hz combined with AI Motion Enhancer Pro keeps fast action sequences, think sports or shooter games, smooth and buttery. The built-in immersive audio technology also adds a subtle, room-filling sound that can hold its own against a basic soundbar for casual listening. On the flip side, if your viewing habits revolve around daytime TV, news, or you mainly use the TV as a second monitor for work, you might be overpaying for a set that goes beyond what you need. The OLED technology, while gorgeous, can be more delicate than a LED in terms of burn-in risk if you keep static logos on screen for hours. It's not a common issue, but the community does mention being mindful of heavy static content. Additionally, the smart TV platform is Samsung's own Tizen OS, which feels snappy most of the time but can lag a bit when you jump between apps. If you're used to the ultra-responsive feel of a Roku TV, that lag could be a noticeable annoyance. Now, let's talk about the practical day-to-day experience. Setting this thing up was pretty straightforward. The box includes a wall mount bracket, and the TV itself is lighter than you'd expect for a 65-inch screen thanks to the OLED panel. I ran the first setup using the on-screen wizard, and the AI-driven NQ4 Gen3 Processor kicked in right away, calibrating brightness and color based on the room's lighting conditions. What I appreciated was the 4K AI Upscaling Pro. When I played a few older Blu-ray discs that were actually 1080p, the TV upscaled them to near 4K resolution without making the image look artificially sharpened. The colors stayed natural, and the detail looked better than on my previous 4K LED. For gamers, the low input lag was evident. I connected my next-gen console via HDMI 2.1, enabled the game mode, and the TV reported an input lag of around 10 milliseconds. That's essentially invisible to the eye, and it matters when you're trying to land a headshot in a fast-paced match. The 144Hz refresh rate also meant that fast camera pans felt fluid, not stuttered. I tried a high-profile sports broadcast, and the motion handling held up impressively, no trailing artifacts, just crisp motion that made following the ball easier. The audio side, while not a full surround experience, does surprise you. The immersive audio technology uses directional sound to make dialogue feel more centered and music more expansive. In a medium-sized room, you don't need a separate sound system to feel like you're surrounded by the soundtrack. That said, audiophiles will still want a dedicated speaker setup for true room-filling sound, but for the average household, the built-in speakers are a pleasant surprise. One hidden trade-off I discovered during a week of use is the TV's power consumption. OLEDs consume less power when showing dark scenes, which is great for movies, but they draw more power during bright, high-contrast content compared to a similar LED. If you're watching a sunny daytime sitcom, you'll see a slight uptick in energy usage. It's not a deal-breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you're watching a lot of bright content and are sensitive to electricity bills. Another nuance that came up in user comments is the remote. Samsung's newer remote includes a voice-activated mic and a small